hello, and welcome everyone to the very first episode of our podcast, SNS Speak and Slay. I'm Ain Amratul Nisa, or you can call me Amra, and I'm very excited to have you here today. Okay, so first and foremost, let me introduce myself. I'm a final year student majoring in English for Professional Communication, and this podcast is part of my final year project. And my goal is to create a platform where we can all learn and grow together in mastering the skills of communication, public speaking, and presentation. Okay, now for our very first episode, we are tackling something crucial, the art of audience engagement. Why? Because without audience engagement, even the best prepared speech can feel like talking to a wall, and no one wants that. And also joining me today is a very special guest, Mr. Mior Ahmad. Okay, please welcome him. Thank you very much, Mio, for being here today.
You're welcome, of
Okay,
course.
all right, Mio. I'm sure that our listeners would love to know a little bit about our lovely speaker here. So, can you share a bit about yourself, maybe your background or experience?
Of course, I am from MLG 1204A, entering the end of my fourth semester, and I grew up in Selangor. And I've lived there for, until now, 20 years. And my public speaking expertise dates back to all the way back to 2015. Since
2015, okay.
since sekolah rendah back in Bandar Tasik Putri, yes.
Okay.
And that experience when I was, I would say a toddler, more or less, that has made me the way I am today. The experience, although grueling and often ended up in tears, has definitely served as the foundation for my skills in presentation today.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Mio. Okay. It's great to have someone like you today joining us. All right. Now we have gotten to know a little bit about you. I think it's time to dive into today's topic. Okay. I've got a few questions lined up for you. But first thing first, why do you think audience engagement is so important in presentation and public speaking?
Well, that comes down to the nature of presentation itself, I believe. You see, not just presentation, just social interaction to begin with. I believe presentation has this boundary that always is maintained between the speaker and the audience. So every speech will have this boundary. Such is the nature of presentation. And so it is your responsibility as the speaker to closing this gap between you and your audience the best way you can. That is the only way to move forward, and otherwise you would have gone on stage for nothing. So it is in your best interest to do your to make sure that they pay attention to you, and if they have not walked out of your presentation or your social interaction, having learned anything about you or have thought about anything that you have said, then it would be quite a waste and it would be quite disappointing. You see, Vin Jiang, a famous American public speaker, you can look him up. He has like a very rough hair, so you can definitely identify him immediately from the first search.
Okay.
He shared with his audience that after an hour-long speech with an audience of 200 people, an elderly woman walked up to him and said, "You have a collective. You have spent a collective 200 hours that you were responsible for today, and you did a good job." I believe that realization of how much of a burden and how much responsibility a speaker has when engaging with an audience is so important and must be made clear. So I hope through this exchange with you and with your audience that I'm able to make this a very fruitful watch for you all.
Okay, that is such a good point. I do agree when you say that speaker is responsible to closing the gap because engagement is the bridge between the speaker and the audience. Because without it, no matter how amazing the content is, um, the audience won't feel connected. Okay.
True.
And it's also interesting that many people struggle with this actually, even myself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, now speaking of engagement, what about the beginning of a presentation? Can you share some practical ways to grab the audience attention from the beginning of the presentation? Like, how do you make them pay attention to you when you just want to start talking?
I'm gonna be completely honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't figured that out myself.
Okay.
No, because throughout the past year, if you ask my classmates,
Mm-hmm.
I have experimented a little bit in how to actually like gain their attention.
Mm-hmm.
But in the long run, I always end up having lackluster results anyway. Probably because my classmates know me and they know that I always talk a little bit too
Mm-hmm.
much, and that's fine. But that said, I believe I'm going to have to take some information out of my lecturer's book. That would be like Madam Afifar Nordin. She is
Okay.
teaching me for presentation skills this
Mm-hmm.
semester. So one of the notable ways for you to gain attention from your audience from the get-go, especially in the first few seconds, is to have a surprising action from the
Mm-hmm.
moment you are on stage, or to bring about a alarming statistic that immediately forces the audience to pay attention to you. An example that Madam Afifa provided us was a video on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
It was titled "The Power of Words." The speaker went up on stage after he
Mm-hmm.
was being introduced and took out a cigarette butt and immediately placed it between his lips and started acting as though he was going to light it. That action, very surprising,
Whoa.
and it was very effective. And he immediately started provoking the audience because they were very confused. They were like, "Oh, what are you booing for? Did you know?" And then he gave like fake statistic. He said
Mm-hmm.
that the reason why people die of cancer is mostly due to genetics and not because of smoking. And of course, yes, that is nonsense. And he
Mm-hmm.
did like revoke that immediately, but it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, that approach to him coming up with that alarming statistic, true or fake, was able to attract his audience, and immediately he segues that into his topic, which is the power of words. You immediately believe what I said about those statistics. Now, here's my topic. Impressive, isn't it? And it works.
Yes.
So I believe that's the best approach from what I've learned from Emma FIFA. So statistics and action.
Oh wow. Oh my god. Okay, that would work for me if I were the audience.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen speakers use stories,
Mm.
storytelling, and it immediately pulls you in because you
Yes.
feel connected, especially
Yes.
when the story relates to you.
Absolutely.
Yes, okay, I see. Okay, I love that. Okay, next question, by the way. Okay, keeping the audience engaged
Mm-hmm.
all the way through. How do you do that? How do you keep the audience interested all the way through the presentation from the start until the end of the presentation? Like, how do you have some effective techniques that you would recommend to our audience?
I will be diving into a little bit of YouTube jargon, if you don't mind,
Mm-hmm.
because it
It's okay, it's fine.
correlates. You see, the that term, keeping your audience attention throughout the rest of the presentation, we call that on YouTube. We call that retention.
Mm-hmm.
And so what that means is you're going to have to do something. In this case, on YouTube, it's visually that forces the attention of your audience to immediately keep watching. Because of course, YouTube, you get paid through watch time, so you
Mm-hmm.
want them to keep watching. And when translated to a presenter, you're going to have to do this thing called repetition. So
Mm-hmm.
retention, repetition, something similar. What does it mean?
Mm-hmm.
Repetition is when you use a phrase or a term that the audience can familiarize themselves with at the early parts of their speech, and they keep bringing it up to show connection and cohesion throughout the presentation itself.
Oh.
Another example provided by Madam Afifa's videos,
Mm-hmm.
she showed me a video of also on YouTube, but not from a content creator. It's from an actual like award-winning professional
Mm-hmm.
speaker. He began with a story about his personal life, where his mother, seeking to draw the potential out of his, out of him, by saying, "I see something in you, but I don't know what it is." So that line and his delivery was already quite impactful, and so it made an impression on the audience. But what completes his speech is that later on, in between, he immediately gets back into a story saying that his wife, uh, years after his mother, said, "I see something in you, but I don't know what it is." So that effect adds a little bit of humor, and that did make the audience laugh. But that shows like what the topic is about. You don't lose the audience that way because you keep repeating something that they are familiar with before. So repetition is very powerful in maintaining retention.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Oh, actually, I remember last semester,
Mm-hmm.
when I was in my fourth semester, taking the same subject that you are taking now,
Uh-huh.
presentation skills, with also the same lecturer, Miss
Yes.
Afifa Nordin.
Oh, I
When
see.
we did our persuasive speech,
Uh-huh.
we printed out pamphlets and then
Okay.
distributed them to our classmates
Mm-hmm.
to make sure they can look at the pamphlets while listening to us. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
and our lecturer at the moment, Miss
Uh-huh.
Afifwan, she was very happy that we did that because it was
Okay.
something different.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and actually, she said that we were the best presenter, but I don't know.
Oh,
But I was so happy. Yes,
I
yes,
see.
and
Thank you for
okay,
the added tip. I
yeah.
will be doing that for my own
Yes,
persuasive
that's
speech.
an extra tip if you ever want to use
Thank
visual
you. I
aids
really
in
needed that.
your presentation.
Yes.
Okay, those are some fantastic tips. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Mia, I think it's time to make this hands-on for our listeners.
Okay.
Could you, how about we do a quick role play? Could you demonstrate to us one winner speaker struggles to engage with their audience, and
Mm-hmm.
then another where they completely capture their attention?
Oh, okay. This is
Okay.
going to be a little bit
Right.
hard, so I
Okay.
hope you don't mind. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
bad actor. Okay, so what would make a struggling presenter? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
they would have their body language. They would have be in a stagnant position, in constant state of stasis. Their energy would be very low,
Mm-hmm.
and the way that they speak would be very monotonous. And even worse, I believe likely they will be looking at their script. So they will look at their phone and be so today's topic of presentation is going to be something something
Oh.
something something along those lines. And I believe, see, this is like the prime example of a struggling presenter. And to improve this, it's in their best interest to start first with um, focusing more on movement,
Movement.
because
Okay.
the way our eyes work is that we are able to pay attention to movement better than things that are in constant stasis.
Mm-hmm.
So, in comparison, when you are more likely to see a moving car than a car in the background that is not moving, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, your best have movements left and right that coincides with your points in the best way that you can. And
Mm-hmm.
to complement this, you're going to need more energy in the way that you speak. So make it a little bit more lively. Yeah, look at the audience here and there. Your tone has to be like up and down as well. Make sure that it's suitable with the topic at hand. And so what it would look like would be, hi, so today's presentation will be about presentations. So what we're going
Okay.
to need, something like that.
Okay.
So
All
it's
right.
very expressive. You're going to
It's
be
very
very personal.
enthusiastic.
Yes,
And you have to.
exactly.
You need a lot of energy. You have
Mm.
to be energetic. Okay.
This is a very like problematic issue I've seen from people in high school in
Uh
particular. I
huh.
have yet to find someone who is as severe as the one that I've
Mm-hmm.
showed you in uni so far. But everyone may have started from there, and it requires a lot of training because like
Yes.
it starts from here first.
Yes.
So those from the audience who want to improve in their speaking, focus on three things. Try to up your energy, make it a habit to have very expressive gestures,
Mm-hmm.
body language, and play around with your voice.
Ah. Okay.
Maintain like a very professional tone when you need it, but be very playful when addressing the audience.
Okay, so it's all about how you present yourself,
Yes.
your tone, your body language, and even your energy. Okay, so you can really feel the connection when a speaker is engaging. Okay, okay. Now, before we wrap things up, I've got one final question for you.
Okay.
What's one key takeaway you'd like our listeners to remember about engaging their audience?
Can I address the audience directly?
Okay, sure,
Okay.
sure. Yes.
Expect them to not care. Because when you approach a presentation thinking that everyone's going to pay attention, it's going to cause a lot of problems. It's easier for you to expect them to talk to someone else, to look at your phones. That way, it will force you to have to force them to take attention towards you instead. That's your focus. So, your main objective for the presentation, especially in the first few seconds, have them look at you, yell out, look at me with the way that you speak. And I believe that's all.
Okay, all right. That is such a great takeaway. Okay. Thank you so much for being our very first guest. I'm so glad that you are here today.
I am very honored actually to be here as
Okay.
well. Very glad that my efforts as a speaker was recognized.
Okay, everyone, if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and please follow us on TikTok and Instagram so that you'll get notified whenever we release a new episode. Stay tuned for episode 2 and you won't want to miss it. Until then, keep practicing, keep learning, and keep speaking with confidence. This is Amra signing off. SNS Speak and Slay. Bye!